Okay, good Erev Shabbos, everyone. As we are sponsored by A.B. Spry for our troops for Issazev Ben Yuta. We're sponsored by Shimon Klein, Lila Nishmas Asher Anshel Ben Yehuda, Gittabas Shimon Pinchas, by Irvin Fishbaum for Isser Ben Razel, and also Lefu Shalema for Eliezer Ben Razel. We learn also from Aishver, Vigdoraya Ben Rivka, Meir Ben Chayesara. They should have a Refu Shalema B'Seich Shar Chayla Yisrael. I myself am a little bit under the weather now. I'm not exactly sure it just happened, but I just took half an hour before this year. I took 3 Motrins because my throat was bothering me. So, Amen. So, but Baruch Hashem, I'm we're holding by Amar Ravina 3 lines from the bottom of Daf Samach Tesam at Beis. Amar Ravina Ilav da Amar Rabbi Yochanan Tznuin v'Rabbi Daisa Amru Davar Echad. Remember both the Tznuin that said that if I have a field that's Kerem Ravai, so I could say that if Shelley takes grapes, it should be redeemed. So the Tznuin say that I could affect the Chalais even when it's not in my Rishus. And Rabbi Daisa says that somebody who has a field, he could say that if the Aniyim take, and they're supposed to take only leket, which is the gleanings that fall when he's reaping, only if it's 2 pieces, and some of the Aniyim don't know the exact rules, and they take a small amount even if it's 3 pieses. So Rabbi Daisa says that the owner could say that which the Aniyim take should be hefker. So they both say, Rabbi Yochanan says, they both say that you could affect the chalais even when it's not in your rishus anymore. So Ravina said, if not that Rabbi Yochanan equates the two and says that Tznuin v'Rabbi Daisa Amru Davar Echad, Havamina, I would have thought Man Tana Tznuin Reb Daisi. I would say that it's not 2 different opinions. The author of the Tznuin is Rabbi Daisa. And then that would resolve the question of, doesn't Rabbi Yochanan paskin like a Stam Mishnah? So it would be resolved because this would be a Stam Mishnah going according to a Shitas Yechidah. Ki Yechidah loy tiksha Stam Mishnah le Rabbi Yochanan, because Rabbi Yochanan doesn't paskin ki Stam Yechidah loy Amar. And now we move into an entirely different sugya. Let's talk about it outside for a minute, and I should invite everybody in. I'm not such a nice host tonight as we welcome in Mel Zachter, who was in first today, and Irving Fishbaum and Yitz Fuchs. Not sure who that is. It says iPhone, and I see a phone. It's A.B. Spry. A.B. Spry, Shimon Deer, Nachman Chapler, Shalom Fogel, Rabbi Krantz, Shimon Klein, Stephen Holtzman, Eddie Chazan, Shelley Zeitlin, Ben Zion Cohn, Dr. Guy, Ruvain Pollack, Berish Gesserman, Naftali Javelin, Moshe Lehman, Aaron Swade, Yitzi Muller, Pesach Siegelman, Abe Arbach. I saw Mark Frankel on earlier in a car, but he disappeared. Harrison Kletzel is joining us, and David Helfgott on Kol Alashin. Here in Shul, we have Reb Blumenfeld and Reb Kramer and Rich Lenner and Saba and Reuven Shamet and Baruch Ian. It's great to have you, Baruch. And Reb Avram. We're now going to talk about whether, let's say I have a claim on Shelley, and I want to do litigation with Shelley, but I don't have time. So I give AB power of attorney to litigate that he should get my esrig box back from Shelley, the Taltal. So the Gemara is going to question whether I can give him power of attorney to go to court on my behalf to litigate with Shelley, because Shelley could say, I don't want to deal with you, AB. Lav bal devarim didi at. You're not my bar plukta. And perhaps the only way I could give AB power of attorney is if I give him the rights to the esrig box. So once I give him the rights to the esrig box, so then Shelley can't say anything because now AB becomes the owner. So says the Gemara, Imrei Nardoi. They said, the scholars of Narda, Loi kasvinon urkasa metaltale. You can't write a power of attorney over movables. So Amar Rav Ashi la Meimer. So Rav Ashi says to Meimer, my time. Why not? Amalei mishum de Rab Yochanan. You know why? Because I cannot give the rights to the esrig box to AB while it's by Shelley, because it's not Bereshusai. It's Eina Bereshusai. So if it's Eina Bereshusai, I can't give him the rights. The infamous 9. 9. Again 9. If Gedalia would have been here, we would have 10. If Berish would have been here, we would have had 10. So says the Gemara, so that's the reason. Amalei mishum de Rab Yochanan. The Amar Rab Yochanan for Rab Yochanan says, Gezel, if Shimon steals something from Abi, and and Abi doesn't give up hope, neither of them could declare it hektish. Shimon, because it's not his, Abi wasn't miyayish. And Abi can't do it because it's not in his rishus. So therefore, there's no way for me to write power of attorney to Abi, because we said the only way Abi could do it is if I transfer him ownership. But I can't transfer him ownership because it's not by me; it's by Shelley. So it's Eina Bereshusai. Ikadamrei, there's another version. Imrei nardoi loy kasminon urkasa metaltale. You cannot write a power of attorney on movables de kafre. Remember, when I give AB the power of attorney, I would have to give him the power of attorney, and it had to be signed by witnesses that I'm giving him my item, my esrig box, to do litigation. Now, I'm giving him my esrig box by Shelley that's in litigation. Now, we already went to court once, and I asked Shelley, give me back the esrig box that's a deposit. And he said, I don't have it. You never gave it to me. So in such a case, it would look like a sheker for witnesses to sign, a power of attorney when Shelley says he doesn't have it. And that's what the Gemara says. The Gemara says such a power of attorney can't be signed. You cannot write power of attorney where Shelley denied having the deposit. Tama de kafre, because then the mirze kashikra, if the witnesses sign that they're giving power of attorney to AB for my esrig box by Shelley, it looks like they might be signing on a falsehood, and they might be taking sides. So therefore, such a power of attorney can't be signed. Avalo kafre kasvina. But if there was no denial, then it could be written, because obviously, according to this version, I can transfer the ownership of the esrig box even though it's by Shelley. The Imre Nardai Urkasa like Sivbe Zil Don Vizachi, any power of attorney where it's not written, go and litigate and take the esrig box for yourself. Zil Don Vizachi Va'apik Lanavshech, less pay Mashasha. Then Shelley could laugh AB out of the court. My time, because Shelley will say, you're not my litigant. Get out of here. I don't have to litigate with you. I'll litigate with Rabbi Weiss. He's the owner of the esrig box. I'm not litigating with you. Amar Abaya says, I can give AB a percentage of it. I don't have to give AB the whole esrig box. Amar Abaya if I grant AB 50%, 33 and a third, 25%, then Shelley can't block him from representing. Why? Because Migu de Mishtai, since he could talk, Migu Mishtai Dina Apalga, since he could litigate for his 50%, or 33 and a third, or 25%, Mishtai Dina Akula, he could already take the whole litigation. Now, he litigates, and AB's good. He gets the esrig box out of Shelley's, hands. And now he says he wants to keep it. Out of the frying pan into the fire. Right? So I'm telling you, the amount of skullduggery that's on this Zoom is amazing. Amar Ameimer, itafas loy mapkinamine. If he decides to seize it, I can't take it away from him, because I wrote to him and I said to him, look, I trusted him, but I wrote to him that when you litigate, you could take it for yourself. Says the Gemara, Ravashi says, no, not so fast. Kaman the Kasvile, since I wrote to Abi, called the Ani Mindina, any expenses you have in the course of litigation, kabilis alai, I accept on myself. Since I said that if it was to be AB should keep it, why would I accept the expenses? Since I accepted the expenses upon myself, shliach shavya. It's clear that I just made him my agent. The only reason I gave it to him is because otherwise he wouldn't be able to litigate with Shelley, because Shelley would say la bal devarim didiyat, but he can't keep it for himself. The ikad amrei, others say shutva shavya. I made him a partner. L'may nafkamina, what's the difference? L'mitvas palga. If I made him a partner, he could claim to keep half. The hilchas of halacha is Abi can't take anything. It's clear shliach shavya. It's clear I only made him an agent. The only reason I said that, it should be his is in only that otherwise Shelley wouldn't be able to technicality, because otherwise he wouldn't be able to litigate. Shelley would tell him, get lost, la bal devarim didiyat. But the fact that I said I'm covering all expenses is clear that I only made him an agent. Okay, as we welcome in Elliot Udell for our 26th Zoomer of the evening, people arrived
Something on this before we go to the next mission?
Yes.
We had I think it was in Gittin, where the person sent a shliach to people, and they wanted him to be Makabel Achrayas. And he doesn't have to be Makabel Achrayas, and they started beating him up. That story.
Yeah.
This Gemara would negate that whole necessity, because once it's his and he's giving it to him.
No, but that's only with litigation. Doesn't apply in a regular case of shlichus.
So there it was just a regular case.
That was a regular case.
Wanted the sender to be Makabel.
Yeah. There was that. This is only because of the technicality of litigation.
But he could be a regular shliach then.
Yeah.
Without having
100%.
Oh, okay.
Now, Ganav al pishnayim. So here, you know what? Shimon has that lean and hungry look. Probably he wants to have some cholent. So Ganav al pishnayim. If Shimon stole under the testimony of two witnesses, v'tavach u'machar al piem, and it was a sheep, for example, or an ox, he slaughtered and sold on their testimony, oy al pishnayim acherim, or it was a split testimony. One set of witnesses said that Shimon stole it, and another set of witnesses said that Shimon sold it or slaughtered it. Mishalem tashlumi arba v'chamisha, and that's going to be a chiddush that we don't say al pi shnayim edim yakum davar v'loy chatzi davar. So even though it's a split testimony, that works. Ganav v'macher b'Shabbos. If Shimon stole and sold it on Shabbos. Now remember, if Shimon would be doing a capital crime where he forfeits his life, then he wouldn't pay, because that's kam leibur d'abamine. But you could do a sale on Shabbos without being mechal Shabbos midoraisa. So if he stole and sold on Shabbos, or ganav v'machar l'avodah zara, or he stole and sold to idolatry, again, he's not worshiping idolatry, he's not doing any capital crime, or ganav v'tavach b'yom kippurim, or even if he stole and slaughtered it on Yom Kippur. Now, slaughtering on Yom Kippur, it's an Isser Karas, but it's not an Isser Mises Bezdin. Ganav Mishal Aviv, if he stole from his father, V'tavach u'machar, and he slaughtered it and sold it, and then V'achkach Meisaviv, and then his father died. So, he has to give the share of the proceeds, the kefil, the dalad v'hei, he has to give to the other brothers, to the other Yarshim. But that's only if the father died after he slaughtered or sold it. If the father died before he slaughtered and sold it, since he owns part of it, because he inherited it, he's not chayiv dalad v'hei. You're only chayiv dalad v'hei if you don't own part of it. Ganav v'tavach v'achakach hiktish, if he stole and slaughtered and afterwards dedicated it to the temple, but at the time that he slaughtered it was by him, so he has to pay. In all these cases, mishalem tashlumei arba v'chamishi, he has to pay dalad v'hei. Now here's another question. He steals and slaughters not for eating. Ganav v'tavach l'refuah, he steals and slaughters for medicinal purposes, or to give it to the dogs, or asheichet v'nimtzas treifa, he shechts it, but he finds that it's treifa and therefore he can't eat it, or asheichet chulin ba'azar, he shechts it chulin in the temple courtyard. Now chulin in the temple courtyard, if you slaughter it, it becomes disqualified. Mishal tashlumi arba v'chamisha, since he slaughtered it, it was a good shchita, he's chayiv dal v'hei. Reb Shimon poiter b'shnei elu. Reb Shimon says in the last two cases, where he slaughtered it and found it was treifa, or he slaughtered it in chulin azara, since it's a shchita she'ena re'uya, since it's a shchita that doesn't make it fit for eating, shchita she'ena re'uya lo yishma shchita. The other cases where he slaughters for medicinal purposes, he slaughters for animals, that's a shchita re'uya. Everybody agrees you pay dalad v'hei. Now, let's get to the.
If he sold it, if he did it on Shabbos, why should we think that he shouldn't pay Bava Kama Daf?
Well, the Gemara is going to show us cases where that in the sale you're going to be doing a chil Shabbos. So in such a case you would be pater. So we're going to see. Actually, one of the things that we're going to learn on Amid Beis is that there's a brisa that says that if you steal and you sell on Shabbos, you're pater. And the Gemara is going to give us scenarios where you're mechal Shabbos while selling it. We'll see. Mute yourself back, please. Says the Gemara, I'll do it. Now, Lema Masnisan, let's go first to the case of where Shimon is our villain. And the Mishnah says that if Shimon steals under the testimony of Irving and Yitzi, and then he slaughters under the testimony of Shimon and Steve, he has to pay dal v'hei. So the Gemara suggests, Lema masnisin do like Rabbi Kiva. Let's say our Mishnah is not like Rabbi Kiva. The Rabbi Kiva, because if our Mishnah is going like Rabbi Kiva, ha'amar davar v'loy chatzi davar. You have to give the whole testimony. It can't be piecemeal. 2 witnesses saying one part and 2 witnesses saying the other part. The Tanya Amar Rabbi Yaisi kishalach Abba Chalafta Eitzel Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. When Abba Chalafta went to Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, Lilmay Torah, to learn Torah, v'imri the other way around. When Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri went Eitzel Abba Chalafta to learn Torah, Amalai Hari she'achlo shana rishayna b'fnei shnaim. The din is that if I have a house and Elliot says that he bought it, but he doesn't have a shtar mechira, he doesn't have a deed of sale, he's up the creek, unless he has a cheskas gimel shana. That is, he has a, we're going to learn it's in Bava Basra all about this, unless he has witnesses that he used the house for 3 years and I didn't protest. Now let's say he has one set of witnesses for 1 year, one set of witnesses for the 2nd year, and a 3rd set of witnesses for the 3rd year. So, Elliot used the house 1 year in front of one set of witnesses. The 2nd year in front of another set. And Shlishis b'fnei shnayim, what's the din? Amalai harizu chazaka. That's still a good chazaka, as long as they testify that I didn't protest for 3 years, and the idea is because a person is not expected to keep his shtar longer than 3 years. You don't have to keep paper longer than 3 years. So therefore, I should have protested, and since I didn't protest, it's a proof that it belongs to Elliot. Amalai, so he said to him, Afani Aimer Ken, I agree with that. Rabbi Kiva chaylik b'davar. Rabbi Kiva disagrees. Show you Rabbi Kiva Aimer. Rabbi Kiva says davar v'lei chatzi davar. It says al pi shnayim edim yakum davar. They have to have the whole package. Not chatzi davar. You can't have piecemeal. 2 witnesses for 1 year, 2 witnesses for the 2nd year, 2 witnesses for the 3rd year. So the chayra over here also, you can't have 1 witness for that Shimon stole it and another set of witnesses that Shimon slaughtered it. Amar Abai, no. Afilu Tamer Rabbi Kiva. It can be going even according to Rabbi Kiva. Miloi Moide Rabbi Kiva. Doesn't Rabbi Akiva admit Bishnayim Aimer Kidesh, Bishnayim Aimer Baal? If let's say 2 witnesses say that Chatzkel, excuse me, 2 witnesses say that Sarah was married. Vishnayim Amim Baal, and then 2 witnesses say that Chatzkel had adultery with her. So the Afal Gav the Eidei Bia Tzrichel Eidei Kedushin, it wouldn't be adultery unless we know that she was married. So we need both testimonies for the adultery. But Kavan the Eidei Kedushin Lo Tzrichel Eidei Bia, the Eidei Kedushin is an independent testimony that has nothing to do with the adultery. The Eidei Kedushin stands out on its own. It tells us that Sarah is a married woman. So therefore, that is a dover by itself. So therefore, dover Karina Bay, and it's good. So here too, it's true that the testimony of Steve and Shimon that he slaughtered it, needs the testimony of Yitz and Irving that it was stolen, because otherwise there wouldn't be a chi of dal of the hay. But the testimony of Irving and Yitz that it was stolen doesn't need Shimon and Stephen, because the testimony of Irving and Yitz stands on its own, because Shimon would be Chayv Kefil. Hachanami Afagav the Eidei Tficha, the testimony of Shimon and Steve. Tzvicha Leide Geneva needs the testimony of Irving and Yitz that it was stolen, because otherwise you're not going to be Chayv Dalvei if it's not stolen. But Kavan the Eidei Geneva, since the testimony of the theft, Lo Tzvicha Leidei Tficha, doesn't need Shimon and Steve's testimony, because it stands on its own. Shimon will be Chayv Kefil for stealing it. So Dover Karina Bey. Now, the Rabbanon say that you could combine testimony. You could make it piecemeal. You could have 2 witnesses on the first year, 2 witnesses on the second year, 2 witnesses on the third year. So then what do they do with the Al Pishnaim Edim Yokim Dover, which tells us Dover V'loi Chatzi Dover? V'Rabbanan says the Gemara, Hai Dover V'loi Chatzi Dover L'Me'utei Mai. What's it coming to exclude? Says the Gemara, L'Me'utei Echad Omer Echad B'Gabah, V'Echad Omer Echad B'Kreis. Here, witnesses want to testify that the girl is an adult, that she's a nara. And she's a nara if she has 2 pubic hairs. And there's a whole valley of issues of whether to determine if she's a nara, right? There's payments that you have to make if she's a nara, but you have to be able to prove that she's a nara. So 2 witnesses say, so the Gemara says, where Dr. Guy says that she has 1 hair towards the back of her pubic area. That we'll learn that way. There's different ways to learn. And Ruvain says she has a pubic hair towards her front. So that's no good. Says the Gemara. Of course that's no good. You need to have 2 witnesses on 2 hairs. Here you only have 1 witness on 1 hair and another witness on another hair. So the Gemara says, "Hai chatzi davar chatzi eidasu." That's only a half a testimony. You don't have 2 witnesses on 2 hairs. El lamute shnayim oimrim echad begaba. You have Irving and Yitz say that she has 1 hair towards the back of the pubic area. Ushnayim oimrim echad bekreis. And Shimon and Steve say she has 2 hairs on the front of her pubic area. So together, it would be 2 hairs. That's no good. Even the Rabbanan hold that's no good. Why? Because each one is testifying that she's a Ketana. Each one says that they saw she only has 1 hair. Because Hani Yimre Ketani, V'Hani Yimre Ketani. They're both saying that she's a Ketana, and therefore that's a testimony that you can combine. In the case of the 3 years, nobody is saying that it's not Elliot's. Nobody's saying that Elliot didn't occupy it untroubled for 3 years. Just there's 1 set that testifies the first year, 1 set testifies the second year. It seems to be from this Gemara that it would be assumed that when they looked at the area, they could see where they looked. They could see if she had a hair in the front or a hair in the back. So therefore, when they said only in the front or only in the back, each one is saying that she's a Ketana. Now, so Ben Zion was troubled. What's the chiddush of Ganav Amacha b'Shabbos? Of course, a sale, parkamatya, is only an Itzdur Rabbana. From Divrei Kabbalah, it says, Mimtzai Chavtzecha, that you have to withhold from pursuing your pursuits. But there's no Isidor Isis, so why would we think that you're part of from Dalal Vehei? Why? But the Gemara says, Ganav Amacha b'Shabbos, Tanya, we learned that if Shimon stole and sold it on Shabbos, he's potter. Says the Gemara, here's the case. You know who Shimon sold it to? I shouldn't tell you this. But who do you think Shimon sold it to? Who buys stolen merchandise?
Martha.
You see, Baruch is not even on Zoom and he knows, right? Yeah, right. No, he wasn't. He said you. I'm telling you, it's amazing. You would think that he's not even here. He wouldn't think about you, but he does. You know, he traveled all the way here to give testimony. Now, so again, let's get the case. Shimon sold the sheep that he stole from Abi. He sold it to Marshall. Now Marshall has to pay him. So what happens over here? Amar Rabbi Bachama Kitan Yahid the Potter. When Marshall tells Shimon, a kites to Eina Miteinasi, pull off a fig from my fig tree, the tikni legale nevose, and through that I'll acquire the geneva. So again, remember Shimon stole it. Now he sells it to Marshall. Marshall has to pay. How does Marshall pay? He says, pull off a fig from my fig tree from payment, and with that, I'll acquire the sheep. So therefore, the sale was affected by an Issa D'Oraisa, by Kaitzer, by taking the fig off. So, now Taisus over here has a scholarly discussion that sheep are not acquired with money. Metalton are acquired with Meshicha, with Hagva, with Mesira, but not with money. So one pshat that Taisus gives, and that's the pshat we'll learn now, he gives another pshat also, but Taisus says that the Kenyan was not, he's calling his bookie in the middle of the shir. I can't believe it. Well, you won't believe this. He's calling his bookie. What are you betting on hot shoes in the fourth race? Says the Gemara. Telling you, I can't believe it. I'm kidding. Who was that? Mark Frankel. Says the Gemara. He's too busy eating. He doesn't even realize what he's doing. You got to see this. It's a comedy. It's a comedy. You know, he's talking to his bookie. He's eating. He's in a hockey jersey.
My wife is my bookie.
Where do I pick? Where do I pick these people up? Who is?
You are a magnet.
Anyway, Amrei. So the Taisus answers that the Kenyan over here is Chalipin, and it makes sense also because who sells a sheep for a fig? So it's a token barter that by Shimon pulling off the fig, he's bartering the animal with and Kenyan Chalipin works by Metalton too. So that's one shot. But now the Gemara asks a very lumdusha question. A very lumdusha question. The Gemara says that since Shimon forfeited his life, what? I don't know what that was about. Since Shimon forfeited his life, if he doesn't want to deliver the sheep, it's not, the court can't take it away from him. Because if he forfeits his life, no collections can be made. And since it can't be demanded from him, he shouldn't be chayiv to pay daled v'hei. Let's see the Gemara inside. Imrei, v'cheva d'chitava le'kaman bedina. If Marshall would come and demand the sheep in court, lo ya'amrinan le'zil shlim, we wouldn't say that he has to pay it, the mechayev b'nafshayu. So then, ha-mechira la-mechiri, it's not a sale. So says the Gemara, Ela Amar Papa, ba'aymer le'zirai kinevasech l'chatziri. Marshall told them, throw the sheep into my backyard. He has a chatzar amishtameres. V'tiknei li genevasech, and acquire and I'll acquire the theft. So therefore, Shimon affected the sale by doing an Issa D'Oraisa of throwing something from the Rishus HaRabim to the Rishus HaYachid. Says the Gemara, but that's interesting. Remember, the only time there would become Leibon Rabineh is if the Geneva and the Issa D'Oraisa happened at the same time. But over here, L'chaira, the din is, in order to be chayiv for achnasa, from the Rishus HaRabim to the Rishus HaYachid, you need an akira and an anacha. So Shimon throws it, that's the akira. And anacha is when it lands in Marshall's backyard. But the sale is affected as soon as it clears the walls of his kotzer, because then it's in his courtyard and is in his airspace. So l'chayra, the mechira happened before the Yisur Shabbos. So why would he be pater? Let's see it inside. So the Gemara answers, it must be going according to Rabbi Kiva. We learned this in Masechta Shabbos. Rabbi Kiva holds kluta kamishon chadami, that as soon as something is intercepted by the airspace of the Rishus HaYachid, it's as if it landed. That's a legal fiction that Rabbi Kiva says, Kluta Kamishon Chadami, that as soon as it clears the wall and it's in the airspace, it's as if it landed already. So the Gemara says, Kaman ki Rabbi Kiva, this must be going according to Rabbi Kiva, Da'ama Kluta Kamishon Chadami, that when it's intercepted by the airspace of the Rishus HaYachid, it's like it landed. So the sale and the Issa Shabbos happens at the same time. The Ikra Banan, Kavan the Matya L'chotzer Beis, as soon as it clears his airspace and gets in his airspace, Kana, Marshall acquired it, and therefore it was over the Issa Mechira. While the Indian Shabbos le Mechayiv ad the Matya L'ara until it goes on the ground when it's Anacha. So the Gemara says no, it could even be going according to Rabbana, but Marshall said to make the case easier that I don't want to acquire it until it lands. I don't want it to be acquired by me until it lands. So therefore, the Isser Shabbos and the acquisition, the sale, happens at the same time, and therefore Shimon would be pater because he would forfeit his life by being Mechal Shabbos. Rava says, I want to get back to the fig case. Let's get back to the fig, because, Marshall is worth a fig. So, he is.
At least one fig, if not a couple dates.
No, I thought you finished dating already. But anyway,
Not if you offer to take me out, I'll go.
But anyway, with that jersey, you're at least worth a fig. So Rava says, L'olam karami bar Chama. Really, it works like Rami bar Chama, the case where Shimon sells the set to Marshall, and Marshall says, as payment, pull off a fig, and I'll acquire it. Now, it's true that this is what the Gemara says, it's true that if Marshall didn't get the sheep, and Shimon, he would take Shimon to court, he wouldn't be able to extract it from him because he forfeited his life by pulling off the fig from the tree. But if he does give him the sheep, so then he's over mechira, and he has to pay, and he would have to pay daled v'hei, and he's pater only because of kam le'ramine. Now let's see that inside. And the Gemara gives us an analogous case with a zayna. We know that a woman of the night, if she's paid with an animal, that animal is forbidden to be brought on the mizbeach. It's called an esnan zayna. Now, esnan osra Torah. The Torah asks an esnan, va'afilu baal imay. Interesting. Here's a man. His mother is a zayna. So he pays her a sheep to sleep with him. That's her rate. So the din is, although he forfeits his life by sleeping with his mother, but the sheep still has a din of an esna. Now, even though if she would try to extract the sheep from him in court, she wouldn't be able to, because he forfeited his life. But if he gives it to her, it's usher as an esna. And let's see it inside. Esnan usher Torah v'afilu ba'alima, even if he paid to sleep with his mother. Now, v'yi tovale kaman bedina, if she demanded the animal from him as payment, would we tell him he has to give it? No, because he forfeited his life. Even if she would demand it in court, we won't say that he has to give it to her. But if he gives it to her, it's a halachic esnan. When Shimon sold the sheep to Marshall, and he said, I acquire it by you pulling a fig off my tree on Shabbos as the chalipin, itava bedina come on, if Marshall would ask for the sheep, we wouldn't insist that Shimon has to give it over because of kam leibin renamine, but if he does, afilu achi, since he did give it to him, havya mechira, it's a sale, and therefore the only reason he's not chayiv daled v'hei is only because of kam leibin renamine, and not because the sale is voided. What we're going to do now, Rabbi Isai, I did the Mishnayos already because now I'm going to be doing the segment called For the Shabbos Table,